The question is not, am I the AH? The question is, am I justified being the AH? Me, 25 male. My cousin Caleb, who I call K, is also 25. We grew up together as buddies. I went to college and graduated in business. K went into the working world from high school and has been doing okay. K's father, my uncle, died recently. No surprise. Years of cigarettes and bad health. The surprise was, he was worth over $3 million. He'd never shown signs of wealth to anyone, including K. It was one of those millionaire next-door things. And my cousin inherited all of it. K was already grief-stricken by his father's death. Suddenly becoming rich, too, was mind-blowing. I live in another state now, but K called me, rattled, asking for advice. So I advised him, saying the sort of stuff they tell you to do when you win the lottery. Get a lawyer and a financial advisor and an accountant. Be prepared for everyone wanting his money. And that includes girlfriends. Be wary of baby trapping. I told him to pay off all his debts and not do anything drastic. And then he exploded. Where did I get off saying things like that to him? I said, what? He said, this was his money. He could do what he wanted with it. I said, but. He said he'd thought I'd tell him how he could get even richer, but if I was going to say everyone would be stealing from him, I could go to hell. And then he hung up. I stared at the phone trying to understand what had just happened. Then I tried to call him back, to apologize, to talk this out. He'd blocked me. I tried social media, email, asking relatives to talk to him. Nothing. He'd completely cut contact with me. And then the deluge started. Suddenly, my relatives were calling, some of them cursing at me, some wanting to know why I told K they were a bunch of money-grubbing leeches. There's a family chat, first I've heard of it, and K went on there with his version of our conversation. He made it spicy. I could understand why some of them freaked out. But it soon became clear to me, some of my family were money-grubbing leeches and were just angry I warned K to be wary. After a few days of defending myself online and on the phone, I got sick of the greed fecal storm and started blocking people. I didn't block K, even though he still wasn't talking to me. I was pretty angry at him, but didn't want to close the door completely. That changed. K was a prolific social media poster, and even though he blocked me, by not logging in but just browsing his public posts, I was able to keep up with his life. It was the K comedy show, a nonstop train wreck and dumpster fire, combined. K bought a $100,000 pickup truck. I didn't even know they made them that expensive. He got DUIs and DWIs, lost his license, and now can't drive. He embraced whacked-out conspiracy theories and spent huge amounts promoting them. He invested in cryptocurrencies, insisting they'd make him rich. Well, richer. He stopped bragging about them soon after. I assume he lost big time. He went to Vegas and, surprisingly, won a bundle. I hope he's got a tax accountant. He gave interviews that were full of brag and dumb talk. And if he faced backlash, he'd claim he never said such things, even though they had him on tape doing just that. And he did his own personal GoFundMe program. He'd give money to people who claimed they needed it, like he was Santa moneybags. That was fine. It was his money. He could give it away if he wanted. But he'd invariably do it while talking about me, saying everyone would be trying to steal his money. And what a terrible person I had to be to think that, and how I obviously wanted his money for myself. How he got that last part, I have no idea. I gritted my teeth at these. But then he mentioned my mother and father. My parents died in a traffic accident while I was in college. It almost broke me. I almost fell apart and nearly dropped out of college. K was one of those who supported me, talked to me, kept me going. I might not have made it without him. K brought up my parents during one of his giveaways, told how they died, and that I'd gotten a huge life insurance payment due to their deaths that I'd used to pay for college. K hinted that having money was all I cared for, and I was probably happy to exchange my parents for it. If I could, I would have beaten K's face in for that. Since I couldn't deal physical blows, I went for legal ones. I got a lawyer and filed suit. Named in the lawsuit, most of the social media platforms dropped K like a hot potato. Apparently they'd had enough of him, and my lawsuit was the last straw. Kay's last gasp was a post describing his $250,000 wedding to Candy, a Vegas showgirl he'd picked up during his visit there. I blocked him. I told my lawyer to go nuclear on him, and I washed my hands and heart of him. More months passed. My lawyer said we were making progress on the lawsuit, but justice goes slow. Then I got a call. It was from Sybil, another one of my cousins. Syb had been on my side in this fiasco, and I was happy to talk to her. Until she said Kay needed help. I sarcastically said the help he needed was psychiatric. She said, yes. Syb said Kay had bipolar disorder, that the past year had been him being manic, and now he was coming down. Everything was a mess. He was in trouble with people and the government. And then there was Candy. Candy was a very smart and ruthless girl. She'd gotten control of most of his finances and caught him cheating. There was no prenup. She was divorcing him and would probably end up with most of his money. Add in taxes he owed on his Vegas winnings, the people he'd alienated, the yes men giving him bad advice. The lawsuits, I was just one. All the money he'd given away and lost, alcohol and drug use, his debts, and it was clear Kay was going to crash and burn. Syb wanted the family to come together and help him, and family included me. I said Kay clearly didn't consider me family, and Syb clued me in to what had been going on behind the scenes. Kay had been jealous I had gone to college. He'd felt inferior and upset and lonely when I'd moved away later. Then he'd found out about his father's money and that they could have been living a life of luxury and status. All this negativity had reached critical mass due to the BPD, and Kay had spent the past year lashing out at me, the closest person to him, like a child. She asked if I could forgive him and help him. I thought about it. Hard. I remembered growing up with Kay, his help after my parents died, how close we used to be. I also remembered everything Kay had said to me and about me the past year. The insults, the craziness, how he'd turned most of the family against me, and how tired I was of it all. Then I told Syb that if she could send me proof that Kay had BPD or some mental problem, I'd drop my lawsuit. And that was all I would do. I'd been hurt and angered and exhausted enough by Caleb's antics. And even if we pulled together and saved him this time, what if he had another episode and did this again? No more. No more. Syb was disappointed, but said she understood, and hung up. So I'm turning my back on my best friend. As I said, I'm an a-hole, and I'm also done with this drama. For good. No more, I said. Famous last words. I meant them at the time. No more drama, I thought. And then Kay wrote me a letter. With everything blocked, it was his only option. And in the letter, he apologized. Who boy, did he apologize. He said sorry for all the things he'd done, all the things he'd said, all the drama, all the stupidity. He said he knew he'd done and said terrible things, and he wasn't asking for forgiveness. Being crazy was no excuse for being a jerk. He just wanted to say he knew that. Now. I read the letter several times. I thought things over. Then I said, nuts, unblocked Kay, and called him. It was awkward and stiff, but we talked. We talked for a long time. He kept repeating his apology until I told him if he didn't knock it off, I'd come over there and kick his butt. After we got that out of the way, we discussed matters. Things were bad for him, as bad as Syb had said. But the worst part was Kay's feelings about himself. Bipolar disorder used to be called manic depressive disorder, and Kay was really depressed. As he said, his own actions have cost him a fortune and most of his friends and family. His father was right about him, he sighed. He's just a screw-up. That shocked me. I'd known Kay's father was strict, but not that he was so harsh. Apparently that was one of those family secrets even your best friend wouldn't tell you. But it was from talking about this that I finally found out why Kay had gone ballistic when I was giving him advice before. People wanting to cabbage onto his money, women willing to baby trap him. These were the sorts of things Kay's father had said to him. And when I said them, it triggered him and he lashed out, and kept lashing out. At least it explained things. With that out of the way, I tried boosting Kay's spirits, pointing out he still had people on his side. With work and luck, we'd help him get through this. We? He asked. We, I said. and told him that if he didn't keep his BPD under control and he ever put us through this again, I'd beat him back to his senses with a 2x4. He started crying at that, and maybe so did I. I got hold of Sib after that and told her to deal me in. I'd help with Kay as I could. She was thrilled to hear I'd come around, and we made plans about what to do. So in the end, I guess I'm not an AH. But only time will tell if I'm an idiot for getting involved in this mess. We'll see.